Hi, I'm Kerry Guppy from Eco Solutions. Today I want to share with you some research that we've undertaken across New South Wales and Queensland at 5 sites, looking at 3 specific weed species and the efficacy of treating those weeds with saturated steam. Before I start, I want to do some shout outs to some people who've helped along the way with this research. And first up is to Tali Shelley from Bush Techniques in Brisbane. Shelley helped provide a lot of the data and the words for this research paper, and her expertise and inspiration has been fantastic along this journey in preparing this research. There's also a few others that I want to extend thanks to, who gave generously of their time and to complete surveys and participate in phone interviews. Their willingness to share their insights, experiences and perspectives was much appreciated. And in particular, I want to thank Paul Summers of Steam Weeders or Garden Warriors from Byron Bay, and Vivian and Graham Roberts-Thompson of Coochie-Mudlow Island Coast Care for your input. Thanks also to Thomas Kuntz, John Nestor and numerous other anonymous reviewers for their constructive feedback as well. So the information presented in this paper was collated by the co-authors from sites that we manage ourselves, and also from survey results from 2 respondents representing sites overseen by the following organisations: Coochie-Mudlow Island Coast Care Incorporated in Queensland, Mid Coast Council New South Wales, where we're a contractor, Eco Solutions. Byron Bay Council, New South Wales, the contractor there is Steam Weeders or Garden Warriors, and also Brisbane City Council in Queensland, and the contractor there is Bush Techniques Proprietary Limited. So we collected 12 items of data from the site representatives, covering things like initial weed infestation size, treatment dates, the steam weed method, so which sort of applicator head we were using, head size, the length of treatment time, observations such as whether the weed was eradicated, the percentage of reduction, and whether there was any seed bank germination following the treatment. We also referenced scientific papers where they were relative to the discussion point. So this is Mother of Millions. A lot of you will be familiar with this plant. It has, obviously the name Mother of Millions implies that it does spread prolifically, and it has millions of seeds within the plant. And if any of these fragments break off, then it will regrow. So that's why it's such a problematic weed in areas like this. And where we are today, this is on the fringe of an urban development. We've got Wallaby Point to our north, and along this area here we've got Saltwater Reserve, which is a long narrow strip between Saltwater Road and the coastal area behind us. So it's one of those urban fringe bushland reserves. Mother of Millions is an ornamental plant that has escaped into bushland reserves. It produces hundreds of tiny plantlets which quickly form new colonies. Each plant produces small plantlets along the edges of its leaves which detach and form new plants. It's adapted to dry conditions and can survive long periods of drought. This increases the plant's potential to persist and spread. It also produces numerous seeds which can survive in the soil for a number of years before germinating. Mother of Millions is toxic when ingested by livestock. It's poisonous to humans and household pets in large enough doses. Mother of Millions is spread by floodwaters and establishes if pastures are in poor conditions. It's also spread by animals, slashes, machinery and vehicles. Mother of Millions was introduced into Australia in the 1950s and it's been found in West Australia, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and Norfolk Island. But it has the potential to spread to other regions. Under predicted future climate conditions, its range, suitability, habitat may actually reduce. Habitat types include coastal vegetation, sand dunes, disturbed areas including trails, garden escapees, grasslands, pastures, roadsides, urban areas, gardens and parks, wastelands and woodlands. So with Mother of Millions, we had 2 case study sites, one in Queensland and one in New South Wales. The site in Queensland was at Coochie-Mudlow Island at the Melaleuca wetlands. In March and October of 2018 and August 2020, treatments were undertaken. So Melaleuca wetlands at Coochie-Mudlow Island included a 1,000 metre squared infestation of Mother of Millions within the sandy coastal site. This area within the Melaleuca wetlands was previously infested with asparagus and had been constantly sprayed. When spraying ceased, the Mother of Millions invaded the area and was the only vegetation that appeared to survive. In some of the areas that the Coast Care manages, the group had stopped trying to hand weed as the weeds were as thick as lawn grass. The purchase of a SW900 unit through a community sustainability grant from the Queensland Government enabled the group to regain control of such areas. The Mother of Millions was treated with the SW900 unit using the 300mm applicator head at 1000 psi or 118 degrees Celsius for 3 seconds approximately, with slow sweeping motions. The saturated steam treatment of the Mother of Millions has activated regeneration of Plecthanthus and Acacia. 2 treatments of the Mother of Millions 6 months apart had a high success rate with greatly reduced numbers. With such dramatic results, the volunteers were able to move on to other sites within the island. The low regrowth of the Mother of Millions indicates that the seed bank had been depleted during the saturated steam treatment. The latest photo in 2020 captures the regrowth of natives in the rugged foreshore environment. Spot treatments are now undertaken annually. Saturated steam treatment has proven to be a successful management strategy for the Mother of Millions at Coochie-Mudlow Island, with only annual spot treatments now required to ensure the Mother of Millions does not reinfest a large area again. Good access for the SW900 unit is available at this site. The second site treated for Mother of Millions was Saltwater Reserve at Wallaby Point in the Mid-Coast Council area of New South Wales. Oz Eco Solutions was the contractor. Management Unit 3 was treated in July 2019 and Management Unit 1 was treated between December 2019 and June 2021. Saltwater Reserve is 1.2 kilometres long and 50 to 70 metres wide. It's a 5-hectare coastal site. The entire site experiences a high number of garden escapees, particularly from garden clippings being dumped on the site. Given the site is long and narrow with high public use along the adjoining beach and road, it is a high-risk site for weed incursions. 2 small areas of the reserve have been treated using saturated steam. Management Unit 3 at the southern end of the site had 3 small infestations of Mother of Millions, approximately 1 square metre each in size, amongst sparse vegetation in sandy soil. Management Unit 1 at the northern end of the site has been free from herbicide treatment since January 22. It's approximately 0.8 hectare site with a small sparse infestation of Mother of Millions at the northernmost end near the public picnic tables, approximately 5 metres by 50 metres. Management Unit 1 also has a sandy soil structure. Mother of Millions in Management Unit 3 had previously been treated with herbicides by National Parks and Wildlife repeatedly over many years, and it had never been eradicated. It was treated once on the 4th of July with saturated steam with the SW800 unit using the 300mm applicator head. A variety of weeds in Management Unit 1 have been treated with saturated steam using the 50mm and 300mm application heads since December 2019. These include asparagus, yucca, bidu bush, senna, Mother of Millions, prickly pear, lantana, fireweed, soteria, Rhodes grass, hydrocotyle, agave, or also known as century plants. Mother of Millions has specifically been recorded as treated with saturated steam in May 2020, July 2020, October 2020, January 2021 and February 2021. Other weeds have been treated at other times with the steam unit during other visits to Management Unit 1. 2 follow-up visits to Management Unit 3 in July 2019 found no further infestations. An intense fire swept through the entire site in November 2019, with the canopy fully affected, and no further infestations have been found at Management Unit 3. A follow-up visit in June 2021 confirmed there are still no further infestations in Management Unit 3. Since the drought of 2018-19 and an intense bushfire in November 2019, the entire site has experienced ideal growing conditions for all vegetation, with significant rainfall events combined with warm weather resulting in an increase in biodiversity. The majority of the canopy throughout the site was burnt and did not recover, except for tea tree, tuckeroo, which have experienced epicormic growth from the base of the trees. Mother of Millions in Management Unit 1 has been contained within the northernmost end of the site. It's become more challenging to treat the Mother of Millions with the increase in vegetation since the bushfires, particularly with natives such as pigface growing there. Pigface is also a succulent which is highly susceptible to saturated steam. While most of Management Unit 1 did experience intense bushfires that destroyed the canopy, the northernmost tip of Management Unit 1, where the Mother of Millions is located, is the only part of the site that was not subjected to the intense fire, as the area is adjacent to a picnic area that's well maintained as a public facility with mown lawn, and just further north is the residential area of Wallaby Point. It appears that the initial steam treatment of Management Unit 3 was successful at eradicating Mother of Millions, given that no further infestations were cited prior to the intense bushfire at the site. The small infestation and sparse vegetation at the site was a contributing factor to the success of the saturated steam treatment. The bushfire favoured the native seed bank, with the site now densely vegetated. Saturated steam has proven to be a successful containment strategy for Mother of Millions at the Management Unit 1 site. Initially, after the bushfire, the access to treat emerging weeds improved, but the ideal vegetation conditions that followed the bushfire meant that the site has since become heavily vegetated, with an increase in biodiversity. An increase in biodiversity in itself could be considered a successful outcome for the site as a whole. Both Management Unit 1 and Management Unit 3 have good access from the verge for the SW800 steam unit. Okay, so this is Management Unit 3 behind me here, and this was very sparse vegetation when we were treating the Mother of Millions. There was a couple of infestations spotted throughout this site here. You can see on this site that the canopy was destroyed during the fire up there, and but since the ideal growth conditions we've had, there's been a lot of lush undergrowth, and particularly with the coastal wattles really taking over this site. The second site where Singapore Daisy was treated was at Elizabeth Street on Coochie-Mudlow Island in Queensland. The organisation that did this work was Coochie-Mudlow Island Coast Care Incorporated, and they did this in February to March 2020. The area treated was approximately 200 metres squared. The Singapore Daisy was treated with the SW900 unit using the 300mm applicator head at 1000 psi, so 118 degrees for 3 seconds approximately, with slow sweeping motions. There's been minimal hand weeding undertaken as follow-up. The initial reduction preparing the zone, then applying the saturated steam, was a little slow because of the thickness of the Singapore Daisy. In hindsight, it may have been better handled by reducing the height of the Singapore Daisy, thereby ensuring a higher concentration of steam on the roots. Follow-up steaming was highly successful, and subsequent follow-up has only required minimal hand weeding along the edge of the waterway. Native regrowth suffered a setback, with a mistaken machinery clearing the waterway in late 2020, but it is now recovering. Overall, when using saturated steam on the Singapore Daisy, the success at this site has been high and the results dramatic. Despite the slow progress at this site with the initial saturated steam treatment, due to the biomass not initially being reduced, an additional steam treatment resulted in a successful outcome. Once again, the ongoing maintenance, although minimal, by the volunteers has ensured that the Singapore Daisy did not reinfest the area. So during a workshop on World Wetlands Day in February 2021, Jono and Tali Shelley of Bush Technique demonstrated to the Coast Care volunteers the efficacy of solarisation and steam weed treatment methods, which resulted in a rich living compost. Jono did the steam weeding among a diversity of natural regeneration, with caution and a discerning eye. The 4 metre by 1.5 metre by 1.4 metre high pile of Singapore daisy was hand weeded and collected onto shade cloths in and adjacent to the water's edge of the Melaleuca wetlands. As there are healthy populations of frogs and other wetland fauna living amongst a diversity of wetland flora species, removing the Singapore daisy onto higher ground was deemed necessary before treatment. The Singapore daisy was steam weeded and covered with turbo composting effect. 2 months later, the pile was reduced to 1/2 metre in height, having rapidly composted. There are a few Singapore daisy runners still living that are hand weeded and re-steamed in a separate pile. Dyschoriste depressa is a perennial herbaceous plant native to South Africa. It usually grows to 60 centimetres high, but has the ability to scaffold, spread laterally and smother native vegetation. Typically, it's found over a variety of different soil types, from dry, gravelly shale of sclerophyll forest to all ranges of soils in low-lying riparian areas. Being a successful pioneer of compacted soils, Disco is commonly found not only in the myriads of waterways throughout Brisbane, but across thousands of parklands the city enjoys. Disco is extremely successful at proliferation. It readily roots at the nodes, reproducing vegetatively at the stem fragments. One mature plant can quickly produce thousands of plants via seeds. Each node typically houses 3 to 8 seed capsules per node, each encasing several seeds. These black spherical seeds have an apparent sticky coating that, when released from the sprung-loaded capsule, can travel up to 2 metres. One plant with thousands of ripe seed can create a monoculture in a very short time. Waterways and damp areas become heavily matted, regularly mown lawns such as parks become a stubble surface, and pathways, bush paths and walking tracks can become densely lined as mowers, fauna and humans unwittingly carry fragments or seed. In Brisbane, it's anecdotally known that mowing contractors are largely responsible for its rapid spread across the city in just 2 decades. Disco was treated at the Downfield Creek Bushland Centre, Chermside Hills, Brisbane City Council area in Queensland by Bush Techniques in April 2020. The treated area was approximately 300 metres squared, consisting of a bushland area of 200 metres squared and 100 metres squared of roadside verge. The Disco was treated with the SW900 unit using the 50mm application head at 10 litres per minute for 2 to 3 seconds for one treatment only in April 2020. The results on this particular project have been very successful, with very little successful germination post-treatment. More than 95% eradication was observed with a combination of hand weeding preparation around natives, ground covers and vegetation, 1 saturated steam treatment and 1 follow-up hand weed. This area is now easily managed by the local bush care volunteers with occasional contractor support without the use of any herbicides. The plan for this particular project was to eradicate the Disco and use native grass seed to revegetate the bank. The follow-up activity of native grass seedling has yet to be employed. In the meantime, any pockets of small native ground covers are proliferating and filling the gaps. This is in part due to careful preparation of the area beforehand, hand weeding amongst the natives to ensure the strength of natural regeneration. As a response to the reduction of its habitat through saturated steam treatment, Bush Techniques is committed to encourage replacing planting of similar local native species through action and community education. If you are a contractor that has a steam unit and would like to contribute to further research into using this technology on specific weeds, please do get in contact with me so we can work together and further this technology for everyone.